Hello friends, welcome back to another Value Vintage Cards video. So this will be the match game. I think we're up to number 6 now. Going back and forth between myself and Mr. John Mangini with the Mangini collection. So saw recently John was on a Cardboard and Cold Ones with Sammy and Jason, and they had a couple other of big guests. They had Orlando on and Darren as well. And our little back and forth actually came up as a quick mention, and John said he was having some fun with it, and they said, he said hopefully Aaron's having fun too. And let me just state for the record, I say it every time there's someone that makes a comment, but having an absolute blast. This is a ton of fun. It kind of takes the idea of kind of trying to be creative and come up with some fun ideas. And also it's a great way to, just kind of makes that simple, but it's also a great way to, it's almost like an asynchronous live where it's just, hey, do you have this? I'm trying to showcase some different unique things. We're trying to pull some stuff that, because of our collecting philosophies being, I think fairly aligned, we have kind of a weird reach of things within our collection. So, it's just been a lot of fun, and it's adding some things to the list. And it's also, pulling out some things that maybe are not as appreciated, on the regular, because it's not always the big names. I think for our collecting philosophy, I'm going to overreach and assume John might have the same feeling, but sometimes it's that rare, unique item that's actually more of a shock or awe thing than it is just the big player. The statement of, can you pick up I've got a 52 Topps Jackie Robinson. Amazing card. Love the card. But tell me you don't go on Facebook, eBay, a good card show. Not every card show by any means. But you walk in, you're going to see that card. So love it. Appreciate it. It just has that, is it rare? Is it scarce? No. And so there's something to, but familiar is also, wonderful and great and cool. It's just, it doesn't have that, like, oh my gosh, kind of like shock value of, what is that exactly? So I think there's something to be said for that. So with that, I'm going to try and dive in here, do my share of the match, show a couple of new and interesting things, I hope, and probably throw a question or two in here just to get John's response, in addition to just being a match component. So he showed two that were definitely direct challenges. Oh, before I even do that, if you look over my shoulder right here, there it is. That's that Rogers Hornsby team picture pack 1931. The odds of two people having that when you just say, hey, can you show that? Pretty low. There's like dozens. So for that to be a, pull that out and match. And then the other one in that set, that I've almost bought the whole set just to get the other card. Then you have duplicates of something that's so rare. It's kind of crazy. But that Hack Wilson is ridiculous. That's such a great image. So if you're looking for, a way to collect a guy, get outside the basic cards. There's so many fun things out there. All right. First thing that John showed was the Ferguson Bakery pennant. Getting all choked up. I actually have that one. That's one I have shown, and it. I hope it's not like anticlimactic when I show something from this era, when I pull out a Mordecai Brown or a George Sisler, but actually I almost got the Mordecai Brown in this too, but I ended up missing out on it, unfortunately, but I did get the Sisler. So this is essentially a Sisler rookie version, and there's a lot of actually big players in this, but if you look at that image, it's one of the best draws. So Ferguson Bakery 1916, but that image is the same as the M101s. I believe all the players are. Maybe there's an exception, but for the most part, that is. All right. So next, John showed All right, so next up, John showed a Max Stein postcard from 1900 something. I gotta pull that thing up here. 1909. Wow. Let me say wow. So that's one that I don't think I was even familiar with. I did some research on that set. PSA is graded like 18 of them. So again, so what? SGC's graded some of them. Maybe BVG has. Maybe there's raw. But when you take a look, I think there's 8 different players. When you take a look at the set, and you see, the most graded player is like 4. That's a pretty rare, scarce, all of it kind of set. I think right now, if you look anywhere in the entire, online universe, there's like 1 for sale. So, unfortunately, I do not have one of those in my collection just yet. That'll have to be on the, wait and see list. Definitely aware of it now. It's on my radar, but not one that I've acquired just yet. So, I thought, sticking in the good spirit of oversized, I'd toss one of these at you, and I know it's probably one you have, but who doesn't like a good Fatima? So that is such a great image. You can pick different teams. You can get Joe Jackson on one of those if you pick Cleveland. I went with the Giants because I wanted the Merkel and the Marquardt and the Mathewson. And what do we got? Over here, you got the mascot on the end. And over here, you've got Jim Thorpe. So, a great way to get a Jim Thorpe. Probably the most affordable way to get a Jim Thorpe. So, I thought I'd add that to the collection. But you got me thinking a couple different ways here. One, I thought I would go with postcards. Since you showed a postcard that I couldn't match. Not the idea is to not match, but I think you'll probably have a fun little way to show. So this is a Walter Johnson. A lot of these different exhibit type cards have blank backs. I did not pick any blank backs. I picked only postcard backs for the sake of keeping the idea of a postcard if I'm going to match. So this is a 1922 Eastern Supply. They call it Eastern Exhibit Supply on here. I think I've seen it called Eastern Supply more commonly. But great shot of Walter Johnson. It seems like the Eastern Supply 22s are a little more rare, scarce than some of the other exhibit issues. But 1922, so we're at 102 years old. It's a pretty good one. And then a lot of those in that era for the items that are labeled as exhibits are blank backs. So it's a little bit tougher to gather. So I did jump all the way to 26 to 29, where I've got a little bit of a run of those. Again, can you tell I like Walter Johnson? So 26 to 29 exhibits will be the next 4. I think that's a great Walter Johnson image. Take that every day of the week. My next postcard. This will surprise nobody. Go with yet another George Sisler. That's a really common pose, image, however you want to say that, of Sisler fielding at first base. The next one is one that, again, not condition focused, because a lot of these you're just happy to have, and there's not enough of them out there to be discerning and say it's not centered or it's, whatever. This one's about as rough as it gets, but again, we're talking about scarcity, and a lot of times we say scarce, there's not many 9s and 10s. Card like this, I actually needed it in an A. By the time you get that as a 2 or a 3, it gets to be probably out of my comfort zone for spending on one card. So I wanted that in a somewhat rough, and so you got to watch when those come up. See it going a 4, it's not something I'm going to be able to drop coin on. So Jimmy Fox, that would be considered a rookie. 26 to 29 exhibit. So youthful, such a great image of Jimmy. And then last one. This will lead us down a slightly different path here in a second. Another postcard back. And another could be classified as a rookie front. So again, 26 to 29. If we call this 26, it would probably be considered as rookie. If we call it 29, it's just one of his first cards. But the Lefty Grove, also a big Lefty Grove collector. He's in my, top 12 that I collect. Jimmy Fox is probably in the next 12 that I collect. So I, being a numbers person, I feel like I almost rank. And then my other challenge of life, which is where I want to throw a question for John. You said you wanted one from every set. And I think that's probably where we have a lot of similarity and commonality in our collecting. I kind of do. I know, to be realistic, I'm not going to be able to have probably one of every set. That would be amazing, neat, cool, life goal. Maybe that's the grail. It's not a card, but it's a collecting philosophy. But I think I'm a little more lenient and liberal on that I would say if I have one from every manufacturer, I'm probably super happy with that. So obviously exhibits, I've got many of the same year even. So I could check that off the box and say I have an exhibit, and I have obviously more exhibits than that. But some of these that I'm going to show, I'll explain why that makes sense to me. Before I dive into those, I want to follow up with another. This might be closer to the postcard idea of what John showed. So this is a W554 Lefty Grove, Robert M. Grove, as it says on the slab and at the bottom. So again, kind of funny that image seems to be somewhat familiar from somewhere, but what makes this one unique, there's hundreds of these graded. It's not the most, and not, when I say hundreds, I mean from the entire set, not of Lefty Grove. Most of these players have dozens graded or less. So they're not the most common set in the world. But what does set this one apart is this is labeled and has the stamp on the back. Best I can tell, these are at most one or two per player graded. Now, when John showed the Walter Mails and he mentioned different colored backs and some different variation that PSA just kind of ignores, SGC probably also ignores, so we don't have a real accurate count on how many have that. I would venture to say there may be some in slabs that just say it's player X that would have some type of stamp. There could be different companies, but I'm going to guess there's probably some that are slabbed that are not labeled as such. So how rare is this? I don't know. I do think it's definitely way less rare, and they did mention on the slab. So if you look at PSA's site and the populations, this probably is the only one. I believe that's the only one that's labeled as such. So and I've asked this before, a thing most people say, not sure. I've shown that card when I first got it. So Net54, I've checked, I've Googled all the good stuff, but I don't see that anywhere. So, what else do you know? Anybody? That's not a putting John on the spot, because if you've not, gotten lucky to get some information on it, I'd probably have the exact same searching as I do. So just not sure if anybody out there in the YouTube world has any additional information on that they would want to share. But, John, do you have I know you have W554s. I think we've discussed that. Do you have any with a stamp on the back? So we'll keep that in the very small population share category if you have. And really, collecting philosophy, do you count that as something different? is that a variation that you would want to check off out of the need to complete, or would you want to check it off because it's cool, or do you not care? So just curious. Throw that out there. All right, back to my other question. Do you count, one off as checking the set idea? So I'm going to start with this one because this is one that has multiple years. I'm going to flip-flop up the category that we're talking about. I'm going to go 50s food. 50s food is fun. FFF. 50s food is fun. That's hard to say. 1954 Johnston cookies. So that is a Hank rookie. This is a rough variation of it, which is what I needed. But the Johnston, super cool because it looks very much like a real card, which is what I like. So, question, if you were collecting Johnstons, let's use that as an example where there's several years runs, would you say I've got a Johnston cookies and move on, or would you say I need a 53, a 54, a 55, and you need one from every single year to count? I'm going to guess that's your answer, but I want you to confirm that. For myself, I could be okay. I do have more of those, but the next one I'll show is one that I have. I think there's only 3 years of run. I have 2 from the same year, so same set, and I'm just going to be okay with that. So this is a Stallmeyer's. Super cool. Back is decent. It is just Yankees, Giants, Dodgers. But the back of it looks more or less like a real card. I've got 2 from the same set, both 53s. I don't feel compelled to get a 54 and a 55 based on my collecting philosophy. Same with this one. I actually have multiple of these, and I've shared some of them. But I think that's a great set that's available in many different years. That's the cons. Some of these have blank backs. Some of them have really more like card-like backs where there's statistics and different things on them. This is a 59, I believe. I wish that would focus just a little bit better so you could see some of the additional details. That image is so great. But the back, My Most Difficult Moment in Baseball by Minnie Minoso. And it's so cool. You get this like first-hand account and write-up. If you want to read that, I think that's a really fun few seconds to read, but pause this and give that a read. That's one of those things that, again, I'm really interested in it, almost like I was growing up. Like, I want to be able to read that. So when I saw the write-up on the back, I was like, that is so neat. I really want to get that. So that's what drew me into that Minnie Minoso. But let's keep foods, because my question here, other than what I threw at you, is what's your favorite food issue in the 50s? So I didn't grab everything, but there's such a wide range. If I want to, figure out, some of these do cross out of being like card category. So this is the 1950 Stan Musial. Again, hard to get that year. So Royal Desserts. One of the things with this, and they're just for documentation's sake, they are blank back. But one of the things that's tough with these is because they're hand cut, a lot of times you'll see the cut being on this side and it'll start kind of like waving and you end up losing words. So even if it's an authentic grade, it's fun to find one that isn't completely, chopping off all the reading. Another one I'll throw at you. You threw out like Briggs Meats before. So let's stick mid-50 tough meats cards. So that's a rodeo. tough set. Also tough to find. There's not, some of these sets don't have any like big players in them. So when you get that, and Enos Slaughter is, Hall of Famer, definitely not inner circle, not as prestigious in the hobby, but cool if you're going to get a set that you can pick up somebody else that's underrated and underrepresented in my collection for sure. So I'll take the Enos Slaughter. Let's go very similar. So Glendale, another tough one. Good old Walter, as they put on here. So great set. It is 53 Tigers. Talk about tough issue. Your pre-LK line. So your big names are tough to come by. So back of it is excellent. Love the back. It shows his amazing season with Boston there with 34 bombs, 144 RBI. Very, very great season. So throw that one at you. Another one that has multiple years available. Curious what you have for the Mother's Cookies. I think there's two bigger than this one in that set that are, bigger names, more inner circle, but this is Joe Gordon. So Mother's Cookies, another regional issue. He's a player manager at that point. Minor league type issue. And then we'll go here. Hires Root Beer. I know some have the tab. Those are the more scarce, higher dollar value version. I only have a couple without the tab, but checks the box, and it's a good chance to get a Larry Doby from 1958. So great looking card, really cool looking set. And then the last one, I will specifically challenge you. I'm going to guess you have something from this set, just because you have something from most sets. 59 Yoo-Hoo. Hand cut. So these can look quite a bit different depending on how they're cut and if they have tab at the bottom or not. Whitey Ford. I love the Whitey Ford pose. It's all Yankees, I believe. I know there's a Mantle, which is way off the charts. That's not the one I'm going to challenge you for. I'm curious if you have a Yogi Berra. I've been searching for the Yogi Berra for months and months. I wish I could say years, but this wasn't on my radar years ago. So it's been on my radar for months and months and months, and I've been searching for it. So curious if you might have that. It's another blank back. And actually, if you get close enough to this thing with this type of, lighting, like I can see the front image from the back. That's how thin this is. So very easy to have damage on these. So these in decent condition are truly to be appreciated. But that is what I have for you. So I threw at you not just some cards to try and dig up and see from the 50s meat collections and food collections and all those different issues. I'm just curious what some of your favorites are. There's so many to choose from, and I pulled that for a couple of reasons. One, to see what maybe a couple of your favorites were, see if you had the Yoo-Hoo of Berra, and also just to see your philosophy. If something has a few different years issue, is one good, it checks the box, or do you want one from every single year? Because for some of those, I was just looking at Z-Nuts the other day. Z-Nuts were issued for decades. So, they span from, tobacco era basically up through into the 30s and I think beyond. So, if you're doing that, do you need one from every single set, or is a Z-Nut or a Stallmeyer or a Johnston enough for you? So, appreciate the response as you are able. Pull some fun stuff to share. And I did throw some questions at you. So I appreciate it. Hopefully that's fun for everybody. And I will see y'all on the next video. Thank you.